stand up to an administration which is too male, too pale, and too stale. Too male, too pale, and too stale. Too male, too pale, and too stale.
Hey, welcome back. It's your man Wise, and today I have a good video to share with you guys. Y'all seen that crazy lady at the beginning. I know y'all seen that, and I know it upset you, but I put it there to upset you. I'm not really trying to, but I needed you guys to see that just so we can get some full context. Checking out the PBD podcast once again. Man, that podcast is simply amazing. They get all the heavy hitters on that podcast. I love it. Donald Trump's lawyer is on there. She's exposing the hypocrisy of Letitia James. And as my guy, not really my guy, Charlie Sheen would say,
I'm winning. I win here and I win there. Now what?
Without further ado, let's get into the video.
Here's the latest with President Trump's case. Obviously, everybody for the longest time was saying, Monday, it's going to happen Monday. 454 for you. He's going to have to pay if he doesn't seize his assets. You know, The View, I can't wait. I want to see that, you know, seizing his assets and the property. I want to see all of that stuff. What is the latest? What's been happening?
So we're winning. And I've always tell people, you know, this is the long game. Okay. We are in a corrupt system. There's no question about it. So people love to say, look, we're going to go over there and Tish James is going to take the keys to Trump Tower. I think Whoopi Goldberg and all of them got excited about putting a chain around Trump Tower and literally were taunting. It was a really pathetic sight, actually. And it didn't happen. Why? Because the Appellate Division read our papers, saw that there are reasons for a stay, saw that it absolutely is ridiculous to have somebody lose an asset while the Appellate Division hasn't had an opportunity to look at the injustices, look at the decision-making that was so flawed. And frankly, the motivation on this case was flawed. She was motivated to bring this case before she was even in office. That's what she ran on, Miss James.
Absolutely. That was her platform. That was her number one platform, maybe her only platform. She ran on the basis that she was going to take Donald Trump down by any means necessary.
So that in itself, selective prosecution, happens to be illegal. It shouldn't happen. Look, they stayed it, they dropped it, they said, we're not taking assets, everything is frozen. Not only, and this is the one thing that nobody talks about, they didn't just say you're not paying that amount of money, which, by the way, is almost close to $1 billion with a bond because you have to pay 10% more, plus you have to pay interest. The judges said, no, we're stopping everything. You're not enforcing this. You're going to put $175 million, which is still crazy, in a bank. But we're also not enforcing any decision against the defendants not to be able to work in New York in real estate. We're also not enforcing the decisions against Alan Weisselberg, Jeff McConnell, people that did nothing wrong, that were working for a company and did their job and truly did nothing wrong. Nobody did. And every single part of that decision from Judge Engoron, that twisted decision.
Weird looking guy.
Every single thing was put on hold. Everything. While we have the opportunity now to say, this is what I was screaming about outside the courtroom steps every day. You know, so we're on hold and I mean, we're on hold for an expensive price, but at least we're seeing a little bit of, you know, due process and sense.
And how did he come up with the 175 million?
I don't know. I have no idea. You know, it wasn't in there. There wasn't any qualification. Or
Alina, are they starting to figure out that this tactic that they're using is not, it's like, it's done. It's not going to work.
We could call the DNC and ask them. I'm not sure.
No, they're going to keep going. I'm glad to see that due process is working in this country, because had we got to the appellate courts and they upheld this, it would have been a travesty and a true injustice and a true damage, not only to the justice system, but also to the city of New York and potential investors. I'm going to keep mentioning this. Over 160 businesses have fled New York City. They've lost $1 trillion in tax revenue, thousands of jobs. This case right here means a whole lot to the city of New York as well as the state of New York. This case means a lot. And honestly, the people that are in New York City right now, they need to be praying that this case gets tossed and thrown out. They need to be praying and hope that they can get some of these companies to come back to New York. It's crazy how many jobs have been lost due to the policies and the politicians of New York City and the state of New York.
You know, I don't understand how they couldn't see that their overreaching has really hurt them, because Donald Trump has always been famous. He has always been a very smart businessman, which is why I think he's a very good president. He attacks things from a business perspective, which I think some presidents and some politicians, frankly, do lack that experience, right? And because of that, they've attacked him so badly that now you've taken a billionaire and made him sympathetic because you're trying to hurt him. It's so obvious that now we've got people from the left, the middles, they're coming to our side and saying, whoa, this is just too much.
Yeah.
You know, they're going to do this to me.
Exactly.
What am I going to do? I don't have Haba outside screaming, you know?
Absolutely. And what about the small business owners? What about your bigger business owners out there that may not be famous, but they have the money? A lot of them have said that we're not investing in New York City. Obviously, we've seen Kevin O'Leary. I wouldn't say that he's one of the people that are not known. Obviously, he was on Shark Tank. Everybody knows who Mr. Wonderful is. Everybody does. But he was screaming from the rooftops that this case makes no sense. Grant Cardone, everybody knows who he is. He got on and was like, man, we're pulling any deal or any conversation that we were having about investing in New York City. It's off the table now. There's a lot of people with money saying, nah, you can't invest in a city or a state this corrupt. You can't do it. And what happens is it's that trickle-down effect. When the wealthy people decide they no longer want to start businesses, when they no longer want to invest in a city or state because the politicians have deemed themselves or shown themselves to be corrupt, it affects everybody, the middle class and the lower class people, because those very wealthy folks who invest and bring businesses are the people that are the employers. And when the employers leave, it affects all the people in the middle class and the lower class. And it really affects the folks that are in the lower class, because at least middle class people may be able to move because they have careers and good jobs. Lower class people, they have jobs just over broke. They may not be able to just pack up and leave like that. And what about the people in New York that love New York City? All their family is there and they don't want to have to move. New York is becoming a place that is uninhabitable because of the crooked politicians and their faulty policies.
What are you going to do? And that's been my message always is, you know, they're doing it to him, but they'll do it to us. They'll do it to me, I'm sure. They'll do it to everybody. And that's what scares me. So that's really, it's the motivation's really not just President Trump, it's America.
So let me ask you this. So this 175 we're talking about, okay, it has to be in an account. Fine. He puts that cash. No problem. If we size up the enemy of President Trump as being deceptive, dark, divisive, willing to do anything to eliminate him as a candidate going into 2024, November 5th, anything they can do, right, to spin the story and say, look at him now, he's part of the establishment, he's going to New York begging people for money, Wall Street, all this stuff. If that was the case, he's still got a few more cases open. Is it possible that they may come up and say, yeah, for this one you have to pay $280 million. This one's going to be $73 million. Another $128 million. Another $190. Can they keep doing this between now and October to just really deplete all of his savings?
So, look, the reality is he's an incredibly wealthy man. His wealth, like all wealthy individuals that have intelligence, is being put to work. It's in buildings, it's in real estate, it's in hotels, it's in golf. They're not, you know, whatever they're going to try and do, they forget who they're dealing with, number one. But realistically, Patrick, what we do have in front of us is really not the civil suits. The civil suits were already done. And what you're asking, I believe, already happened. We had the Carroll lawsuit. He got hit with an insane, and that was a suit that I obviously did. We had already lost prior, and we have not been heard on appeal on that first loss.
This is the 83.3 million.
83.3 million.
Right.
That was the first one,
Right.
which actually turns out to be 91 million when you look at it with the bond, okay, with the 10%. You have to put 10% on top. People think you put 10% into the court.
Decrease.
You put the entire amount plus 10% into the appellate division. So it's a number that the court gives plus 10%.
This is a racket. New York City, man, please. You got to steer clear of that city and that state. Goodness gracious, this is a racket. But she said something that I wanted to touch. There were a lot of people out there screaming, oh, he's broke and this, that, and the third. Wealthy people do not keep their money in cash. It's stupid. If you keep your money in cash, you're actually losing money by the day by just keeping all of your money in cash. Typically, wealthy people have their money working for them. Typically, it's invested in real estate. It may be in stocks. It may be in bonds, so forth and so on. You do not want to have your money sitting in banks in cash. Anything over $250,000 in one single account is not protected by the FDIC insurance. You would be a fool to have anything more than $250,000 in any one bank account. People don't get to billionaires by being fools.
Plus the interest on the bond, plus whatever they get in fees. It's plus, plus, plus. So we already got that hit. I did that trial 2 weeks after Letitia James' trial ended. I was on that trial for 4 months. The Judge Engoron waited to put his decision until after the jury came out with Carol. So we had that happen. It was 91 million. And then Tish James, her original complaint, if you look, was $250 million. In the middle of the trial, towards the end, she changes it and says, now I want more. Not because the facts were bad. Frankly, the facts were good. Deutsche Bank came, took the stance that he was a whale of the client. We actually wanted him because we wanted his connections. Zurich still insures us. You know, all these things. The judge didn't care. Tish asked for more. He gave exactly what she wanted. There was no consideration for witnesses or facts or law. It's all crazy and
How
corrupt.
did they come up with these
So it
numbers?
was 91, then 375. They're out of thin air. Their own expert said, even if we looked at what this judge is saying is an overvalue. Okay. He's also saying Mar-a-Lago's 18 million.
Yeah.
Okay. So sure, if you think Mar-a-Lago's worth 18 million, well, there's about over $1 billion of over. It's ridiculous. There is no way. If Mar-a-Lago's 18 million, we should all buy it tomorrow and flip it. And
Yeah.
we'll all be worth hundreds of millions of dollars. I mean, it's crazy. But if you look at it that way, yeah, that was already planned, Patrick. That's what they did. They did 91. Then they did 375. 375 becomes more like 600 million. So they were trying to take it. By the way, remember, Tish asked for his statements, asked for financials. She changed the number based on what cash he had. There's 0% question in my mind. That's what happened.
So Lena, if you ask that, like,
So they were trying to break him. That was her goal. Her goal was to try to deplete all of his cash resources. She asked for a certain amount, and then asked him, give me your financial statements. Let me see into your bank accounts. She's seen how much he has and then turns around and says, okay, now we want all of that. This is insanity. And I hope that when this is all settled and said and done, I hope he hits her with a massive lawsuit.
the average person that doesn't know about law, doesn't know about all this, and they're looking at it from the outside looking in, even left or right, and they're saying to themselves, how the hell are they getting away with this and nobody's saying anything? In the legal world, in government, in Congress, somebody should be like, all right, guys, time out. Besides, I don't care what the hell, who the person is. What are you guys doing? This is blatantly obvious that it's a tactic to try to keep them off the ballot. It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous, but I think that we have a problem with accountability with the Democrat side, and I'm not sure we figured out how to tackle them. We have to. I think President Trump would make everything even Steven when he gets back into office. I think that what we have to deal with is exactly that. We keep talking about it. I could go on TV every day and talk about how we have White House logs that came out while I was on trial. I'm sitting in the back room and I find out that there were White House logs that Tish James visited the White House.
Yeah.
Before and after the complaint was filed. What? How was that not on the news? If I didn't have such a loud mouth, people wouldn't hear the truth. So I'm looking at it and I'm going, what? How is this possible? And it didn't get covered.
Of course, mainstream media is choosing not to cover a lot of things that are going on right now in reference to their party. It's by design. It's on purpose. And the thing is that there's a lot of people that don't watch independent media. And there's a lot of people out there that only watch CNN and MSDNC. And they take what they say as the facts, truth, gospel. And if they did not hear it from them, they don't believe it to be true. And if they heard it from them, it has to be true. And there's a lot of people out there like that. It's ridiculous, man.
Who is that public info? Fight right now wanted to find out that she's visited the White House.
Yeah.
That's public. I could see it.
Yeah. It's crazy. So I'm looking at it and I'm saying, how do we hold them accountable? Well, these are elected officials. You know, we had people there. We have gag orders being put on us. How is that okay?
Yeah.
Gag orders on lawyers.
Yeah.
Imagine I go to court, I'm your lawyer.
And you can't
the
talk.
judge says, but no, you can't talk about a couple things here.
What?
How about the Carroll case? The judge asked me the questions I was going to ask my client in public in front of the media before he took the stand, and then asked me what his answers would be. I was like, excuse me? Nobody talks about it. Transcript. Ask for the transcript. It's there. It's crazy.
Yeah, this is judicial activism at its worst. Judicial activism is where the judge is sort of acting as a lobbyist on behalf of a political side. And in civil cases, it can run amok as long as you get a dirty judge. At least at the federal level, you know, you have federal sentencing guidelines, right? Which was that a sentence will be this much, might be this much, and can be extended to this much on the circumstances
Yeah, it's statutory.
Basically the AGs for states or whatever that are participating and remand things like to the Southern District of New York for business, and it looks terrible, and they say, okay, well then your guidelines here, but you're going to get this. But for civil, Vinny, civil, it can run amok. All you need is a bad, dirty judge. He puts a gag order here, he impugns a witness here, he prevents us here, he suppresses us here, and you're literally a puppet, and you feel like you're in the middle of Congress during a debate for a bill rather than in the halls of justice with rules and regulations. We are supposed to have, you know, the executive, the judicial, and then legislative. Legislative is where we run amok until we figure it out. Judicial, we're supposed to have procedures and laws and standards and things that go in there. This didn't happen. They basically decided that the civil case, they were going to run it like a political campaign. And for everybody listening, that's what you should think about here. That the Trump cases were run like a political campaign by a filthy, corrupt judicial.
Absolutely. That brother hit the nail on the head, and he said everything that needed to be said about what's going on up in New York. We got to figure a way to get the civil case situation under wraps. Obviously, when the case is criminal, there's a lot of guidelines that must be followed by the prosecution, the defense, as well as the judge. But it seems like in the civil world, in a civil case, you can do whatever you want. If you are the judge, you have carte blanche to do whatever you want. And that needs to change. And it needs to change ASAP. So I hope that when all of this is said and done, the dust settles, President Trump is president 47, he can get in and make some sweeping changes to the judicial system in reference the civil side of the judicial process. Let me know what you guys think. Like, share, subscribe to the channel. Drop me a comment down below. Keep God first in your life, America first, and I'm going to catch up with you all next time. Peace.